you can't motivate anybody to do anything they don't want to at any time for any given reasons, period. I love the premise of your show. I have to tell you, I love that story.
Thank you.
It's always a little bit sad when, as humans, we tend to go like to the edge of what we're capable of before realizing that that may not be the right thing.
Yeah.
So, but hey, at least you did, and you did something about it. So that's the thing.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think you're right. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I even have this show to begin with is
Mm.
really just to share that story so that hopefully, hey, one person listening to this can maybe not go so far to that point or even past it.
Hmm.
Because unfortunately, it's also very normal for people to totally ignore that and wind up divorced or losing their kids or in the situation where like, hey, they've now woken up 15, 20 years later and they don't even recognize themselves or their life
Yeah.
anymore.
Estranged from their kids and, twice or three times divorced and yeah, drowning in alimony and yeah, it's just yeah, that's humans were a strange bunch.
Yeah. Well, I guess even too, even if it doesn't affect the kids or the family or whatever else, but just you wind up waking up at 75 years old and realizing like you spent your entire life and you have no idea who you even are.
Yeah.
Right? You're not living your authentic self. You don't even know who you are, who your
Mhm.
authentic self is to begin with, which I think is a really sad thing.
It is indeed, and it's so common because
Yeah.
individuality is not that simple.
I also think we don't do a very good job of embracing the individuality of people. And like we try and fit everyone into this mold of what we expect them to be or what we want them to be for us. And it ain't that simple, is it?
No. And you know what? And in a nutshell, I'm looking to see if I have another set of AirPods. But and in a nutshell, you basically just pointed out what I do for a living because that's exactly it. Is whether it's your employee, your boss, or your team member, you're dealing with another human,
Mm.
and that's it. That's all it's about. All of it is all about that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a complex thing. Let's
So you
say
think a large part of that is really just kind of pausing and zooming out for a second and realizing that this person exists outside of the current scenario that you're judging them against? Like they have a normal life outside of this one interaction you have with them?
hmm. Well, absolutely, and I think that the trick is to a not take things personally, which is way easier said than done, and b when people show you who they are, believe them, and that tends to be an extremely feminine trait. That is like, oh no, he'll change or he'll be better and I find that women, I'm including myself in that, we whether it's our friends or our mates or even our business partners or colleagues, we tend to deal with the potential instead of dealing with who that person is here and now. It's like, yeah, but he can be much nicer, and we excuse a lot of it, and we don't tend to believe people when they prove to us who they are right now.
Yeah.
And, there's been so many great people that said the exact same thing. Like even the latest book with Mel Robbins, and truth be told, I'm not that big of a fan. I don't dislike her, not by any stretch of the imagination, but her let them theory is exactly that, is let other people be who they are and then decide if that's okay with you or not, if that behavior is okay with you or not. If it isn't, then it isn't, just walk away. And of
Right.
course it is easier said than done because humans are complex beings and we have a lot of feelings, and so yeah, it's not that simple.
Yeah. Well, I do love the part of, that let them theory, which is the second half of that is, hey, let me,
Yeah.
right, take back control of what I'm going to do now that I've I've allowed this person to be themselves, right? You give that person grace to do whatever it is that's best for them in that scenario. And I think it's a really delicate part that we need to be able to give people grace to be themselves
Mm-hmm.
and grace to struggle, right? So if you and I have some level of working relationship where it's like, hey, I recognize right now this is who you are. It might frustrate me, but I need to be able to give you grace to be in that situation and not take it super personally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I may still be optimistic about, yes, you can change, yes, you can grow, but I cannot force you to do that. I still need to accept you for where you are at right now and keep it moving. Is that right?
Yeah, and you know what? It even goes further than that, because even when I work with teams now, one of the first thing that I do when I talk with the entire team is you cannot motivate anybody or at any time to do other than by violence. You can't motivate anybody to do anything they don't want to at any time for any given reasons, period. So what once you've accepted that, because that's the biggest thing, I think, as human beings, is accepting that we're not all the same and that our brains are not all wired the same. So once you accept that fact, then the way to make a detour around that quote unquote obstacle is to tap into their motivation. So it's really strange, because in order to get what you want, you kind of have to step out of the way.
People are doing their damn best
Right.
at any given point. It's like, I'm not good with technology. I'm not going to sit here pretend that I'm, this tech whiz. I truly am not. And quite honestly, it's a royal pain in my, what. So I'm not going to, go, oh, it's all figured out and I'm all good with it. I'm not. I'm not good with it. I don't really want to improve, to tell you the truth, because it's the amount of new technology that just is implemented on a daily basis is astonishing to me. Like, my brain can't wrap itself around that idea. And although I do use it to facilitate, it's just, I'm not going to become a techie. So
Right.
why not just show up as that?
Mm. It's a
You
great
know?
point. And I think there's a lot of people who try and be everything for everyone, right? And we feel this pressure to be the best at everything. But what it does is it diminishes us from being the best at what we're uniquely gifted for. And I think each of us
Absolutely.
has a unique gifting. And when we lean into it and say, hey, this is my thing, for you, maybe it's helping people with, human-based leadership, and it's not technology. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace that. But the more time that you spend trying to be the best at technology also is the less time you have to help people feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard as humans and leaders. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, a really great point that you made there is for all of us to really focus on what is it that we're called to do, not trying to be the best at everything. And that might also mean there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some times where we got to fumble our way forward, but those are normal, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Whenever I post a personal story, like on LinkedIn or any other social media that I use, these are the posts that I get the most genuine, true, real engagement. And what that's telling me is that all human beings are craving the real stories and not the made up, cut off, glorified, all made pretty life, because life is messy. Humans we're a strange bunch.
Right.
And the other thing, amplify what you just said, is that if I waste my time, and by the way, I once wasted, and I use that word very carefully, wasted 5 hours of my precious life trying to connect tech, like Stripe, to make Stripe in US. I live in Canada, and connect it to my website. Wasted 5 hours. I accomplished nothing other than waste my time. At the end of it, I was angry, frustrated. It had not worked. All I wanted to do was drive over my computer with my car. And on top of me not succeeding and wasting that precious time, I deprived the person that could do it like that of using their natural ability.
Mm.
I could have given whatever, I don't know how much it costs, on anybody that's really tech savvy, they could have done that in 5 minutes, charged me $20, I don't know, $100 for it. And they would have felt seen, heard, and valued in their abilities, in their interests. And I deprived them of that. And that's what we do. Instead of embracing who we are and embracing what we're naturally good at, we bounce our head on the same bloody rock and we go, it's gonna work, it's gonna work, it's gonna work, it's gonna work. And A, it doesn't work. And B, it's not helping others either. And the best way to get trust in life is to give it first.
Mm.
So when you show up vulnerable and you show up saying, hey, you know what, Jim, can you give me a second? I'm going to change because obviously this is not my normal setup. And so therefore I don't have my regular tools. And I don't want to spend an hour being annoyed, holding my mic and not being truly connected with you. So give me a second and I'm going to use my AirPods. I look like what I am, a human.
Right.
So I think that we need more of that in the world.
Yeah, I strongly agree. And, I think it's what you said there first is the willingness to go first, to be the one who shows up as the authentic version of yourself first. Because, I think when you can truly see yourself for who you are, not what society defines you as or what other people told you are, but what you see yourself as, then it kind of gives you eyes to see other people, and it gives you space where you don't spend all of your time and energy, much in the same way, thinking about how are these people going to perceive me, or what do I have to do to fit in or gain their approval. You are free from all of that, and you gain all of that space back to then make the people around you feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard. Mm-hmm. And that as a bonus helps them be their best version of them, which then pours into you. Right. So It's this cycle where once we start to show up for ourselves, and this is really hard, right? Because for most people, they think, I'm being selfish, or I shouldn't do that because then I'm taking away from X, Y, and Z and all this. I have this to-do list of things I need to do. But rather, if we put ourselves first in that scenario and fill our own cup first, right? How can we be good for other people if we're not good to ourselves first? And I think that's a great lesson there, that people need to be willing to go first, to fill their own cup first. Then they can be better for the people around them. If they truly care about helping these people, we need to take care of ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
Love
that. And you know what? While you were talking, one of the things that resonated in me is when I hear people, and I hear that all the time in the work that I do, just be yourself. I have a huge problem with the word just. Well, first of all, because it implies that it's an original piece of advice, which it isn't, let's face it. And B, it also shows that it's a simple thing to do, and it isn't. Because being who we are is literally being inside the bottle, but the instructions are on the label. And we need other people. We need them to mirror us. We need them to kindly show us what we're like, because we are so complex. And we have so many things that we deal with on a daily basis. And I don't know, but it looks like that is even increasing. I think technology is supposed to make our lives better. And, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a little bit complicating mine, but we need to be seen by other people. And you know what? In psychology, they were able to prove that children, take their first steps when they know the parent is watching. They will not walk by themselves. They need that eye, that really loving and caring eye to look at them before they stand up and take one step forward. But you know what? We don't change that much. We need to be seen. We need other people. And whether you believe in God or you don't, I truly think that was created by design. Imagine that all were close to 9 billion people on this planet. Imagine if we were all 100% self-sufficient. Well, why would we need others for? It'd be boring as hell, first of all. So we need other people. And of course, I'm not suggesting that we start taking everybody's opinions into account. I'm actually not prone to that at all. But the few chosen ones in your life that love you unconditionally and love you the way that you are and are willing to give you grace, when these people say something about you, maybe you should listen. Because more than likely, they see things about you that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah. I think it's a great point. And I think the way I understand that is really having relationships for people to hold up a mirror for you rather than a megaphone. Okay, so we get into these relationships sometimes where you've got a friend or a relationship, whoever it might be, that the other person just wants to shout back at you, hey, this is why you're wrong, this is what you're doing, this is blah, 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 all the ways you should change. And rather, when we get into a space of grace in those relationships where the other person can just say, hey, here's how you're showing up right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. With no other expectation or no criticism or nothing else there, where they can show up and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing right now. Let me show you how you're showing up so that way you can see it as well. And I think, much to your point, with the instructions on the outside of the bottle, having those relationships really truly helps you to be the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's that really fine point that a lot of people stumble on with understanding, hey, do I need to listen to everyone's criticism? Or do I develop some relationships with people where I feel the space and grace to understand, hey, what they're telling me, I can then evaluate that and make my own decisions. I don't even need to take their word at 100%. Mm-hmm. I just need to use them as somewhat of a sounding board to help, again, be the mirror in that relationship instead of the megaphone.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that when we develop new relationship as adults, it's important to find people who elevate us and whose presence bring out the best out of us. Because some people bring the best out of us, and that seems to be like even a chemical thing. Like you'll meet somebody and you go, oh my God, if I never speak to that person ever again, that's going to be okay. Well, to just accept that, maybe it's a gut feeling and maybe you don't need an explanation. And to surround yourself with people who naturally bring the best out of you and for whom you want to be the best person possible. Yeah. And we have time doing that because especially, as we age, our relationships are extremely, if we're lucky and we cultivated great friendships, they've been around for a long time. Like I have a friend I met in grade 2. I have another friend I met in 1989. So you cultivate, relationships on long periods of time. So you're less likely to want to, quote unquote, get rid of that relationship if that relationship isn't nurturing anymore. But you kind of have to, because sometimes you literally outgrow people. And there's a not very popular saying that goes like this: if you're not losing friends, you're not growing up. Because sometimes you need to outgrow certain people. Doesn't mean that you are. It just means that maybe you need a little bit of distance to be better and for you to elevate yourself to a new level. So it's very, very touchy, but we need to be around people that see the best out of us, because that way, like the toddler, that way when we know that these people are looking, we take our first steps in a new direction or in a better direction.
Yeah. I love how you said that, and it reminded me of a saying that I've heard a few times that I really enjoy, is that you can't lose friends, you can only lose connections with conditions. And I think that's a great point there to really sharpen that a little bit, is that you're going to have some people in your life who, yes, you will outgrow and you will lose. Those were not necessarily your true friends in the sense that they're not there for the long haul, right? Another good buddy of mine says, people come into your life for a reason or a season, right? And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that sometimes that person is going to be in your life for a short season. It might be this one period of time where you have that relationship, and then, hey, you move on, you grow. But, even just to go back to what you said earlier there, I think if you look at the relationships that you have in your life, where the people who you spend time around, where you feel like, I'm okay if I don't see you again, versus the person who you say, man, I want to spend more time with you, I think it's very obvious to see which one of those people spend the most time on themselves first and are a healed version of themselves. But that person is operating in their authenticity. Those are the people who you want to spend more time around. Those are the people who are able to see you for you, not this negative cluster of emotions where they can't even see themselves. You don't want to spend time around that, and you can feel that, right? There's a palpable feeling of that you get from hanging out with these people. So it only makes sense to extend that to yourself. Hey, if you do the work on yourself, right now, you're going to get back what you give. If you show up in these relationships where you are this calm, centered, authentic version of yourself, you're going to get way more of that back. And that feels awesome. It's this amazing cycle of growth that happens, but only when you show up as that authentic version of yourself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a good testament of how far you've come too. Because I remember as a teenager, I was such a drama queen, and all of my situations were dramatic, and all my friends were drama llamas. Now, as I worked on as I healed, as I drank the Kool-Aid, as I like to say, I don't tolerate drama no more. You don't get nobody, even clients. I will go without the bunny. I do not tolerate anyone to complicate my life. I just don't, because that to me is going backwards to an older version of myself that I don't want to be anymore. So sometimes I have the same saying as your friend: is a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Because some people will, be by your side your entire life, and that's quite beautiful. But that means that throughout all of your life, you will kind of navigate, and sometimes one is ahead and the other one is behind, and vice versa. And you just kind of accept that. And when I think of my best friend, I met her in 1989. We were both in the military. And when I think about her, and we had this discussion numerous times over the last 3.5 decades, the only thing we have in common is that we truly love one another. She's my best friend. She has been ever since I met her. But we have, she's a parent. I'm not. She's been married twice. I've been married. She, lives in the boonies. I live in the suburbs. We have nothing in common, but she truly takes me and accepts me for who I am, and vice versa. So that kind of relationship brings to my life is I know for a fact that regardless of what kind of quote unquote problem I'm going to share with her, she's going to have an entirely different perspective on it. Imagine how beautiful. Because she's always going to be able to show me another way to look at the situation I'm in. And sometimes I go, oh, that doesn't apply to me. And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes I'm full of myself. But most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, I go, huh, okay, hang on, I got to think about that. Because her perspective from mine, it's like reading the label. And she's showing the perfect mirror. She's showing me who I am from the outside. And I can adjust or readjust depending on what is good for me at this particular moment. But we need people like that in our lives. We need people like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a long or somebody that you just met, you need someone to kindly, like I love the image of holding the mirror and just look how beautiful the image is. Because most of the time, self-talk isn't positive. And the mirror is, look how beautiful. Look, read. It's just that you're in it, and it's messy. Humans and sometimes, so we need that.
I agree, and this might be an awkward deviation for a second, but there's a point here. Without having to totally interrupt our recording session again, your AirPods keep cutting out. So there's a lot of clicking sounds, and I'm losing maybe every eighth word. So we may have to shift recording mode
let's go
again here.
You want to recording or?
Yeah, no, we're going to keep going because while you're doing that, what I do want to say, because I think it actually ties in really well to this, is I could sit here and put on a smile and just pretend I totally understand every word that's coming out of your mouth because I'm only hearing half of them. I could pretend everything is great. Or I can say, hey, this might be awkward, but I can't totally understand you. And I think so much as you probably don't want to sit there and hold your microphone to your mouth for the rest of this show, for me not to say anything, people can't hear you.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
Right? So, and that's the thing that I think people need to necessarily really understand in this is if I don't step up and say the awkward thing, right, be willing to be a little uncomfortable here and say, hey, I don't want to totally throw us off course and cause a frustration or whatever the thing might be, it's actually doing you a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
now people can't hear your message.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I'd rather stand up and say, hey, let's take a quick detour. Let's shift back to the AirPods. And again, I know that's annoying for you.
That's okay.
But otherwise, people can't hear you. And that's, again, a disservice to you. So I think the beautiful part of that, and I'm really glad it happened, honestly, is it allows us to say, hey, there is benefit in being real, raw, and authentic with people that we care about. Otherwise, we are literally robbing people of receiving their message.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I can hear you better too that way than in the AirPods. The AirPods were, I don't know, it sounded like a little bit more like muffled or something. So yeah, it's all good. I'll hold it. It's just that people can't see my entire face, but I'll try to hold it in a way that it doesn't hide.
No, it's good.
All of it. And I
and
even
again,
put my light, my makeup on today.
I'm honestly glad that we had that experience. Again, I think this goes back to just being able to be present and looking for the good in things and in people and in a situation. Is that now we're literally being given this gift of a message saying, hey, people can't hear you. if you're not willing to show up and you're not willing to have these conversations, your
Absolutely.
message is literally being muted if you
Absolutely.
are not willing to show up and be your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. What a gift.
Technology agreed with us today.
Yeah. Yeah. It played an important role in this conversation. I'll tell you that for sure. So tell me
Hey,
this a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. How did you actually get started down this path? What was the inspiration for you to really embrace your authentic self and go out there and help
Hmm.
other people do the same?
Hmm. Oh, that's kind of a loaded question for me. It wasn't, I don't have a big aha moment. I have a lot of them. I have, as far as my business is concerned, it was the worst boss I ever had. That I thought, I really had the mindset where I thought being an entrepreneur was just a God given gift and I didn't have it. I truly, that's what I thought at the time. And I was in my late 30s and yeah, mid to late 30s. And he was not a kind man. He was a liar, a cheater. He would cheat everybody. He would cheat his clients out of quality that they paid for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yet, in what is a society norm of success, he was extremely successful. He had made his first million in the 1980s. So it's like making $1 billion now. I'm exaggerating, but you understand the point. So when he did something, it wasn't assault or abuse or anything like that, but he did something on a professional level to me, and I just kind of said, yeah, you know what, you're an asshole, and I quit. And I don't normally tell people that they are what I just called him, but he truly was, and he was um, a narcissist by every way possible, every definition possible. So, but what that particular event did for me was driving home. I had literally just quit my job with nothing ahead, and driving home, I thought to myself, okay, so this guy is unkind. He is manipulative. He's a sociopath, a narcissist, and yet he's successful, like in the financial and business aspect of life. He was extremely successful. So there's just no way I'm going to fail. It was kind of a big aha moment for me as far as my job was concerned. Is I can't fail. It's impossible. And that was kind of when I decided that I was going to be an entrepreneur and not work for other people. As far as the current business that I have, it was coming to the realization that humans are at the center of businesses. 100% of my clients are humans. 100% of my collaborators are humans. 100% of people who refer me to other people are humans. 100% of the people around me are humans. We are all humans. So if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. And yet, still to this day, in corporate America, people are treated like they're secondhand citizens, and there's no such thing. There's no such thing. You are naturally gifted at things I don't know anything about. And so, if we even come back to the beginning of this conversation, why deprive other people of doing what they're naturally good at? And so, if I look at other people and I think that, then I have to apply it to myself. And I find that most employees that I work with all tend to say, oh, yeah, but this particular thing, everybody's good at that. Because that's kind of my job to point out what they're particularly good at and find their natural abilities and their preferred behavior or their cognitive preferences. And I go, no, not everybody is good at that. But we minimize, as humans, we minimize what we're good at, because if you are naturally gifted in something, you think everybody is. And
Yeah.
therefore, you shouldn't charge money for it because it comes easy for you. And that is a load of crap, because it is the complete opposite. You should take what comes easy for you and make it a living. And when you do that inside of a team, and I don't want this to be a sales pitch, truly, I really don't. But if you take a team and you take every single human beings on that team and you point out what they're good at and you put it in the service of the team, imagine how unbelievable this team is going to get.
Yeah. I think there's a really important part of that too, where it's not selfish.
Nope.
And we talked before about the importance of selfishness to a degree, to take care of yourself, right? Because I think that is selfish in a certain meaning of the word, but not a bad thing. I think there's a very big difference between being selfish to take care of yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for other people, versus being the narcissistic guy who just cares about, hey, what's in it for me. Two very different people.
Absolutely.
And God bless whoever that was. But I think if we look at the importance again of showing up in a selfless way as a leader, right? A common phrase, hey, be a servant leader. You can't necessarily be a servant and a leader at the same point, because if you're serving people, you need to be there to take care of their needs. Is very different than leading them to take care of the business's needs. You really need to walk the line between both and care for the people, but cast such a big vision that it also encompasses their vision as well. I think that takes a very selfless person to say, hey, I'm so driven by this passion, by this idea, by this concept. We are going to go out there and show up every day and change the world in this meaningful way. And along the way, we are going to help you accomplish all your visions and dreams as well. Because guess what? If you can help the people on your team do the things that are important to them, how much more likely are they going to be to show up and go the extra mile for you? Right? We look all the time and we see leaders who just want the people to show up first and say, hey, I'm going to put the company first and then I'll give them a raise, or then I'll care about whatever the perk and the benefit is that's important to them. And newsflash, for most people, it's not money, right? Would you say that's accurate? You found the same thing? Most people are not motivated by money in their job.
Absolutely.
But most leaders think, I can just pay them more and get them to do whatever they want, sacrifice their life for me.
Nope.
It don't work like that.
Nope.
Right? And you see the same?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Jim? I'll even take it a step further. A lot of the leaders that I work with will say, well, but I feel like I'm not abusing, obviously, but I'm using these people for my benefit. And I look at them and I go, well, if you provide them the tools, if you pay them a fair wage, if you treat them properly, if you're actually investing in their personal and professional development, please take for granted that most of these people actually don't want your job. And they are actually extremely satisfied with working for somebody else, because not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to be a boss. And by doing what is quote unquote selfish, and I don't think it's selfish, and what is good for you and what is good for your company, you're actually doing them a favor because they want a job. All you need to do is find their motivation, tap into it. All you need to do is come up with a true value, a true motto, a true purpose to your company, and have that purpose not only be a logo and a slogan, but actually words that you live by. And you know what? If we take it even further, then you're going to start attracting people who want to collaborate and participate in that dream, because it's good for them.
Right.
Because it's good for them. Just give them the tools, empower them, allow them to make mistakes, allow them to come up with crazy ideas, allow them to raise their hand and say, I don't understand, without having them feel shamed, without having them feel like they're being belittled, and show how quickly they're going to show up in your vision because it's good for them. You know
Mm.
what? We're all the same, kind of the same way. Our blood is all red. We want what is good for us. If I tap into somebody else's vision, it's because it's good for me. I'm not stupid. If it's not aligned with what I want in life, I'm not going to do it. Right? So
Right.
just, I understand why. And it's actually more power to those leaders who see it that way, because that means they truly care about their people. But take care of you. Take care of what you want, what you need, what your vision is. Have a real purpose. Share that purpose. Have that purpose, not, like I said earlier, not only be a logo and a slogan on the wall, but truly words that you live by, and see how quickly your people are going to walk in broken glass with you to get
Yeah.
that done, and they're
I
going to feel
strongly agree.
great about it.
Yeah. I strongly agree. And I think the part that I'm hearing in that is you can't be a empty version of a leader and accomplish that goal by having a fancy mission statement for your company or anything else. It starts with you showing up with honor and integrity as you, the person,
Mm-hmm.
right? The leader of the business, the leader of the household. It's really all the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you show up with integrity and honor and live your life by a certain followable excellence, a standard people can see, people will follow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that it's easier for people to say, hey, here's our company mission statement, get on board and let's make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot harder to come up with core values and live by them every day. It's uncomfortable. Most people don't want to do that.
Mm.
But if we look at the leaders who are the most impactful, the companies that are the most impactful, they're led by people.
Mm-hmm.
They're led by humans, right? They're led by people who have integrity, who have core values, who do the right thing. And obviously there's examples of companies who are led by people who, maybe they don't have the best values. Those are also the companies that people don't love to work for. There's a lot of churn. And do you want to live like that? Probably not. So I love
and more and more.
everything you shared.
I apologize, Jim. I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No,
just
go ahead.
I want to add, and more, the younger uh, generations, the generations after mine, and even after the ones right after mine, they are looking for their work for purpose, for meaning. They want more than just the nice paycheck and the 4-week vacation. They
Right.
need more. So it can't be just about, slapping a logo on the wall and pretend that that's the mission statement.
Right.
They want more. And
Yeah.
the latest McKinsey report pointed out that new employees start looking, imagine the average time it takes before they start looking for another job is 3 days. Imagine how costly that is. You just hired somebody, the cost of hiring them, looking for them, the time that everybody's going to interview them, the time it takes to train them. Losing an employee is 1.5 times to 2 times their annual salary. So that's extremely costly. But this younger generation, and I think they're right. Honestly, I truly think they're right, and I applaud their guts, because they're not in it for the money, they're in it for the purpose. They want to know that what they're doing is meaningful. So we need to do better as entrepreneurs and as business owners, and to actually give them the tools to do better.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, especially, and not to get into the political side of things, but money as a whole isn't worth what it was, right? And now you're in a situation where people can't necessarily pay their bills in the same way. So they can't put that importance on money, right? Because they can't physically use that money in the same way that they used to. So now the value is transferred into time, peace, morals, purpose, right? And those are things that are a lot harder to fake. So, you get into this new society where you need to actually live those out. And I think it's a very great observation that's what this next generation of workforce really is looking for. And, I think you're right.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you as we kind of draw our show to a close here for sticking with me, for having this conversation. It has been a ton of fun, and I truly appreciate your insights, the work that you do, and how you show up as you, because I know that there's a lot of people who leave that experience feeling better about themselves, and you can't put a price tag on that. So thank you for being you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the grace that you've given me through all my tech problems today.
Of course. Yeah, no, I actually think it added a little bit of spice.
It was a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
thank you very much, Jim.
Hey, before we go, can I ask you a favor? I'd love to pray for you. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this opportunity for today, this gift you've given us to show up here and be present in our lives as a podcast, our lives as friends, our lives as family, and our lives for ourselves. Father, for this day that you've given us, for us to show up here and be our authentic self as you've created us to be. And I know that it's difficult sometimes as we move throughout the day, feeling the pressure of society and the pressure of expectations. But I ask that you continue to give us this grace, this feeling of being seen and heard, so that we may continue to explore back to our authentic self, back to who we were designed to be, and continue to operate in that way where we can chase what we have been called to chase, so that we can show up and pour into the people around us and rise the tide for all of society. And that only happens when we show up as ourselves. So Father, I ask that you continue to give us the wisdom to see, the heart to feel, the ears to hear, and to show up for each other. And I ask that you continue to meet us in that space where sometimes it can feel lonely, it can feel frustrating, it can feel just anxiousness. But Father, I know that all of these things will come together for good. And even if we don't understand right now in this moment what that means, and even if right now we are struggling with feelings of frustration and anxiety and whatever else we feel, I ask that you continue to cast those away from us and let us just continue to show up as our authentic selves, as you've designed us to be. I ask all these things in your name. Amen. I love you.